Welcome to the Obesity Medicine Podcast with your host, Dr. Rentea, board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine. Here, we talk about a path to metabolic health, and we have real conversations about chronic weight management and living a full life. Just a reminder, I am a physician, but I'm not your physician. So everything that's on this podcast is for informational purposes, but please go talk to your doctor about what's right for you. There is no medical advice being given on this podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am a little bit under the weather, but I got a great topic to talk about today, and I just want to go ahead and record this because I feel that this topic, I think, is going to help a lot of patients and podcast listeners. Just to give you a little bit of background with me, I always give you a little bit of update at the beginning of the episode. I am back from a 3-day business trip. It was absolutely amazing. It was in Dallas, and it was other women physicians that have clinics and that are really looking how to solve different challenges in their clinics. And it was just an incredibly amazing experience, and something that the person that led this trip did just absolutely amazing is that they had a lot of different parts throughout the day where we call this somatic work, where you really get into your body. So something that I want to bring up to a lot of professionals that are listening to this, or if you're in a career where you're using your brain a lot, it's very common that I see with patients when I work with them clinically, that if you're in your head all day long, and this is actually, I don't know, it's kind of everyone that works with me, but if you're using your intellectual brain often, you are usually not very connected to your body. So the problem that this creates is that you're not familiar with hunger signaling. You're not familiar with what the needs of your body are because you're so disconnected from it. One of the things that this business coach knew was that if we're going to sit there and do 3 days of work with planning 2025 and doing all these things, that sounds all fine and great. But if you get all in your head, what ends up happening is when you leave these trips, suddenly you have a crash, or suddenly you hit the wall. There's all these different things that happen if you're not also handling the body at the same time. So it was beautiful because on my own, of course, I got up and took a walk. Now, the area that it was not great for taking a walk outside. It was just sort of a questionable neighborhood. What was funny is a mile over, there was the most cutest, most amazing town, but right there, it's not something where alone in the morning I would have gone and taken a walk, but I just got up in the morning for an hour, literally just walked a little loop around the house. It was perfect around the bottom floor. But the thing that this person did is that we started out each morning with 10 minutes of Qigong, which was just excellent. And then on the second day of the retreat, we had an hour sound bath. If you've not had this done before, it's absolutely incredible. So apparently, and I'm going to do more reading on this, but I looked into how I can get this done more at home here in Indianapolis. Apparently with sound baths, it's really an opportunity for your parasympathetic nervous system to be more on. So instead of being in this fight or flight or kind of reacting, being high stress all day, when you get a sound bath, it really sort of, let's just say in a very easy, basic way, really calms you down. And this was super incredible for that to be on that day. And then Sunday went home. So coming home from all of that, of course, with the travel being there, all those things, I feel I'm probably getting sick. I feel incredibly tired and like something might be coming on. Here's the funny thing. I cannot remember the last time I've been sick. And this is a really big deal. If you've listened to this podcast long enough, I used to get sick constantly. I'm talking probably once a month, if not more often. And it was super disruptive to my work life and just everything. And I can't remember the last time I'm sick. And I was thinking, wow, I always used to get sick around the December holiday time or Thanksgiving in November or when the kids would be on break in October. It was always a given that half the time I'd be sick and the other half I wasn't. So I don't know what I can attribute this to, if it's taking better care of myself, the hydration, the protein, the fiber, the multivitamins, the vitamin C, I don't know. But apparently, knock on wood, I'm very grateful right now for how things are. So when I came back from this trip, I got an email from a patient, and they actually said a very nice line at the end. They said, "Of course, I give you permission to use this information or email in your podcast." And I thought, wow, that was great. Okay. Because normally if you write in a fan mail question, I might answer that on the podcast, but I'm not ever using patient information without permission. So this person had a question for me. This person got a colonoscopy. And if you look at the new updated guidelines, they'll say, again, I'm not giving medical advice on this podcast, but you can look them up. They have a joint position piece on this. And basically, you either don't need to stop it depending on your risk profile, or stopping it 1 week ahead of time, or there's different recommendations if also your nutrition gets adjusted. For example, maybe you'll do what we call like a lower residual diet, like less fiber and things like that a day or two prior, or maybe clear liquids, or maybe a double prep. There's just so many different things that can be done. Now, I personally still like people to be off of it for 2 shots, meaning that it's a full 2 weeks that you're off of it. The reason being, there's just too many people on the other end that when they get a colonoscopy, it will not be entirely clean. And then they'll have to go back in 6 months and get the same thing done. So yes, it's painful, that additional week being off. And I'm going to go through why that's such a big deal and why we're going to dedicate a whole episode to not only how to handle that period, but also afterward, because this is something that a lot of people struggle with. This episode is really for anyone that is headed into an elective procedure and they're having to hold their medication. So what ends up happening, even if you're holding it for a shorter period of time, these medications have a certain half-life. And depending on the cadence to which you've been taking the medication, of course, if you're holding it, things are going to change for you that either 1 week or 2 weeks, right? So let's say that you take the medication weekly, but you are holding it for 2 doses. So that second week, the week before you're doing the procedure, you likely will get more hungry. You will likely have weight regain. I'm going to explain why in a second here. So all of that's going to happen, increased urges and cravings, all of that. Let's talk first about why that's happening, strategies that you can mitigate that. But I don't even care if some weight comes back, because here's the first thing I want you to realize. These medications are incredibly anti-inflammatory. So some of this weight, even if you say, okay, I'm increased hunger, but I'm sticking to the exact same foods I'm eating, I'm doing all the exact same things, even if you do that, I still see some gain usually. So thing number 1, I need you to realize that this is likely a lot of inflammation. And so I want you to not freak out about that. Meaning I want you to say, listen, this is a super brief period. And this is something where I just need to keep my head screwed on right during this time, that in the grand scheme of things, months and months and years and decades managing overweight and obesity, we have to go through these periods where med gets held for different things, or you get put on a steroid and some weight comes on. We need to be able to navigate these ups and downs. And this is one of the examples. Okay, so number 1, inflammation is part of this. Number 2, these medications, remember, half-life for tirzepatide, which is Zepbound and Mounjaro, the half-life is 5 days. So imagine if you don't take that next shot at the 7-day mark, imagine by 10 days, you would get you keep having these half-lives breaking down, right? So you have less and less medication around. Semaglutide, the half-life is 7 days. So that's going to be your Ozempic Wegovy. Okay. So I often find the people that are on semaglutide do not experience this as profoundly as those on tirzepatide. This is just observational. So in this time period, you're going to realize, listen, I don't have the support, not only for the appetite part, but also the part that's going to the hypothalamus and saying you're satisfied, you're good, your taste buds being changed. All these things are not the same anymore. So you are going to try to continue to do the things that have supported you, the water, the protein, the fiber, if they're allowing all that, right? Now, the monkey wrench here is that this person said that I had to stop my GLP-1 2 weeks in advance of the colonoscopy tomorrow. And the last week, my doctor recommended I eat low fiber foods and no fruit or veggies. As a result, I'm up 6 pounds. I am amazed by how fast my appetite returned. But then also they said, hey, can you do a podcast on this in the future, which was extremely nice. By the way, I just need to say, I am so impressed with my patients because they actually care about everybody learning, and it's not just them learning. So I'm always blown away. Okay, so you're trying to do those things, but look, they said to her, we don't want you having fruits and veggies. So imagine that's usually most people, veggies are a pretty big part of what you're doing. You can be doing all the hydration and the protein and all those kind of things, but you're still going to struggle with less med around, plus you're not able to get the fiber. So I just want to bring up, you're going to do the best you can. You're going to do the best you can. I would try to really make sure that you're hitting hydration and protein. Those would be the 2 that I would really focus on. And It could even be as simple as, number one, that might also be a time when you're really going to need to start to implement some of these emotional eating urge techniques where you are allowing the urges and cravings to pass. This is really hard work that normally I suggest you're working on this all the time, because then when these type of scenarios come up, you really have that muscle built up. But realize you're going to do the best you can. It's not going to be perfect. Okay, so everybody repeat after me. You're going to do the best you can. It's not going to be perfect. What you're going to do is you're going to get that procedure, and then afterward, you're going to get back on it and you're going to get back on track. So within a month, within 4 weeks from the time when you stopped to the time when you weigh yourself again, those are the 2 points I want to look at. I don't care in between if the weight went up and then came back down. Does it have to be perfectly down at the 2-week mark after? No, but just give yourself a framework like, hey, we're sitting this month out. It's kind of like when the holidays are crashing tidal waves on us. Yes, we try our best. We realize, look, it's a day like no other, and I'll do one meal and not the whole day overeating. And, we go on and on. But if you've listened to my podcast long enough, maybe you say, hey, if I have 3 birthdays that month plus 3 holidays and I'm out of town 2 weeks and I'm this and I'm that, maybe that's not the time you push for weight loss, right? So what I would say then is you get your colonoscopy, and again, based on your doctor's recommendations, maybe you get right back on it afterward. Then the question becomes, how do you quote unquote get back on track after that? And what I want to say is you need to create a ladder when you're getting back on track. So this is not just pertaining to after colonoscopy time. This is in general. When you feel like life has fallen apart, this is normal, by the way. This is going to happen in life. We're not robots. I really say that a lot. We're not robots in the sense that things are not perfect all the time. And we have to get out of perfectionism. Otherwise, we're always like, well, I blew it. It's over. So part of quote unquote getting back on track is, what does the ladder look like to you to get back to that? Typically, the things that I find help the most, we get back to number one, hydration. If that's happening at every meal and snack, can we get some protein and some fiber? Now, it doesn't need to be the perfect, 30 grams of protein and 25 grams of fiber per meal if I'm a woman, or 38 if I'm a man. It doesn't need to be that perfect to start out with. It's just, hey, can I hydrate, period? It's not that I'm perfect. And can I get any protein and veggie at each meal? So when I say this ladder, usually I'm like the first 4 or 5 days, we get back to looking if that's there. We get back to what I'm going to say is structured eating, meaning, hey, can I try to eat 3 times a day so that maybe at night I'm not wanting so many snacks, or that it's not this scenario where suddenly I'm wanting all the things in the house. Because you know how this goes when you're like, I'm not hungry for breakfast, I'm fine. And then things kind of cascade on you throughout the day. So we get back to, what's the ladder for what we can follow? I'm sorry for hearing construction in the back. I think I've told you guys that I'm getting a new home office, which is great, but there's a lot of work that's going into that. So you're going to focus on this ladder. What's the first thing I'm going to do? What am I going to do next? How am I going to know that I reach that next thing before I do the next thing up in the ladder? So I had a patient the other day, and whatever thing it was, we were writing out a ladder for them for, again, it's the same thing, how to get back on track, or how to sort of what looks like kind of ramping things up for them. And my whole thing was, how do you know it's time to go to the next step in the ladder? So don't just make a plan for yourself. I need you to know, how do you actually know it's time to go to the next step in the plan? To kind of wrap this up, you are going to realize that this is part of normal life, that procedures are going to happen, that you're going to forget your med when you go on vacation. Something's going to happen where there's going to be an interruption in the universe. You're going to realize that if you're not going to be scared by how quickly your hunger comes back, because I want to tell you, remember, it is super hard to keep fat off. Remember that our body always wants to fight us. So that's why it makes sense that these medications, the way I typically teach it, there's rare exceptions, but most people need these medications for life because the body's physiology wants to fight back. So it's very evident that second week when you're not on it, you suddenly say, wow, that's the level of hunger that I would have been dealing with. You would have slowly gained it back over time, but I'm not shocked by that, right? So there's that, there's inflammation. You don't have the typical support that you have. You're going to try to hold on the best you can. You're going to try to do the things that you can do that are allowed by the physician prior. And then afterward, you're going to ease yourself back in with simple steps. And you're going to allow that to be enough. You can always crank the intensity later. There is no need when you go from no medication support with that second week with a lot having washed out to right away back to every single thing in the universe. Give the medication time to kick back in. So for example, you're going to take it. It might take 2-3 days for you to feel like you have anything around. It might only be week 2 or 3 after that when you're back on it, where you feel like you're back to what we call quote unquote steady state, where you're back to where the levels feel consistent from week to week, how you're feeling throughout the week. So you need to give yourself time. I can't stress this enough. Okay. That is all I wanted to give today. Of course, again, I really need to stress in this episode, always listen to what your physician is saying. These are just some general thoughts that I've seen this be disruptive to patients' journey when they have a procedure and then they really get in their head with, well, somehow this is really going to mess them up or that they're going to not be on track for a really long time after. That's optional. Remember this quote unquote getting back on track. I want to call that kind of the reintegration period. We've talked a lot about this when you come back from vacations, right? And we'll say, hey, make sure that you have the foods in the house, or there's like a food delivery that happens at night when you get home on the plane, right? That we want to make sure that things are ready to go for you when you get back, that you have a plan of, even if I've been eating differently all vacation, when I get back, here's what I want to get back to. Here's the structured eating. Here's the food in the house. Here's what I want to do. Just make a plan for after, and then realize it is a bit of a roller coaster, that usually the days leading up to the procedure, because you don't have as much support and you don't need to feel like you're out of control. I'm doing something wrong. Oh my gosh. This is what it feels like for the disease to be untreated. And thank the Lord that we have a tool, or that we're working towards strategies where every day doesn't feel like that. I want you to remember, past you had to deal with that every single day. You did not have a minute of relief before. And now you have a reality where that's not a battle every single minute of every single day. I'm not saying you don't have times of struggle, right? Because we know this, even if you're on the meds, it can still be a struggle at times and all these things, but let it be just a really nice reminder of, wow, it is a different place when I'm on the meds. Because I do find, this is my last comment, I do find that people get to a place of not complacency, but they don't appreciate anymore how heavy a lift these medications are helping them, like how much medications are helping. And so oftentimes I find this is such a nice opportunity to just say, yeah, it really does a lot. And I'm going to be grateful when I'm back on it. And I'm going to make sure to not squander the opportunity, and really be grateful for the help and do my part to make sure that I'm then getting the nutrition that I need. So I'm going to leave it with that. I'm sure I could share so many other things, but I think that this is good for today. I would love, love, love if you are really enjoying this podcast, please leave me a review where you are listening. It means so much to me. It helps other people that are really struggling to find the podcast. So please leave a review wherever you're listening, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Audible, Pocket Cast, you name it. There's so many amazing places. And I love to get your feedback and your hopefully 5-star reviews, but I love to hear what you have to say. All right. I hope you have an amazing rest of the week here, and we'll talk soon. That marks the end of today's episode. But if you're newer to the podcast, I want to tell you about something that we have, and it's a free podcast roadmap. So this is perfect for any of you that are listening where you want to be directed to very specific episodes. So let's say that you are just starting out and you want to know, what should I do right when I start on the medications? Or you're experiencing certain side effects on the GLP-1s, or you want to know what to do if you're in a plateau, or if emotional eating is taking over, or if hunger levels are high. So we have many different categories of episodes that we've talked about, because there's a lot at this point. So if you want to be able to navigate that very easily, we have it broken down by category, and also the episodes that are there, and we hyperlink to everything. So you can just click on it and find the episode, easy peasy. If you want that, you can go to renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. We'll have it linked right here underneath the show notes where you're listening, and you can go ahead and get that free resource so that it makes it easy for you to navigate, because I know that it's really hard when someone has an established podcast. I am such a podcast fiend. I'm listening to podcasts all day long. And when I find one that I love, but there's a lot that are out there, I am so lost. So I hope that you enjoy this free podcast roadmap. Again, the link to get to that is going to be renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. I hope this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.